Okay, here we go again. Hi everybody, my name's King Newsme. So as we all know, in 2023, a new Goosebumps series appeared on Disney Plus and Hulu. And last year, after a ton of requests, I finally made a video going after what happens in each episode in the season, and then giving a pretty long review at the end of the video about what I thought and how they could fix it. And then literally 2 weeks after I posted that video, a new season called Goosebumps The Vanishing comes out, and the cycle instantly started over again. So today we're going to take a look at Goosebumps The Vanishing and recap and review each episode of the series. Then I'll give a whole show review at the end of the video, and I'm going to repeat that because if I get another comment from somebody who doesn't listen, I'm going to crash out. I'm going to recap and then review each episode. Then at the end of the video, I'll give a review of the whole series. I'm going to recap and then review. But before we could do that, we've got some background information about the show. This new Goosebumps series isn't like the 90s Fox Kids show. The 90s show followed an anthology format, so each episode was a different story with different characters, which makes sense because the Goosebumps books are also formatted that way. But the new Goosebumps decided they wanted to follow a serial anthology, kind of like American Horror Story or Channel Zero. This was obviously a very bold decision because there is no way you can get 8 one-hour episodes out of a book that is 130 pages. So to combat that, they decided to connect multiple of the Goosebumps stories to try and fill some time and make the story more chaotic and weird. They also decided to take the new show in a more mature and serious direction, which is weird because last time I checked, the Goosebumps books were written for, hold on, let me check my notes here. 8 to 12-year-olds. Children. It was written for children. So you'd think they'd want to make the show for kids, right? No, dummy.
Who are you calling dummy?
Slappy, I'm not even talking to you. You're not even in this season. Get out of here. Goosebumps sadly isn't as popular as it was in the 90s and early 2000s, and all of us fans have now grown up. So they've made the show more grown up by making it scarier, darker, and more intense than the Fox Kids show. Last year we learned that the first season wasn't exactly horrible, but it wasn't exactly good either. But all we can hope is that they learned from their mistakes in the last season and they make this one better. But there's only one way to figure that out, so let's quit yapping and get into it. After the sponsor. I talk about a lot of movies and TV shows on my channel, and that makes it to where I have to sign up and pay for so many streaming services, some that I completely forget about for months, which isn't good because I'm trying to buy a house. I needed help fixing my finances, so I downloaded Rocket Money. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. They make it super easy to cancel unwanted subscriptions. Once you connect your bank account, Rocket Money identifies all of your subscriptions in a single list. From there, you can select the ones that you don't want anymore, and Rocket Money may be able to help you cancel it with just a few taps. It's so easy, just try it for yourself. I personally love the automatic savings feature. Rocket Money analyzes your accounts to determine the optimal time to save so you reach your goals a lot faster. You just choose your savings goal, pick a preferred saving frequency, and watch your savings start to grow. I have personally used this feature for many years, and it has helped me save thousands of dollars. No joke. And you can also edit, pause, or withdraw all your money at any time. Take control of your finances today. Go to rocketmoney.com/kingnewsme to get started for free, or click the link in the description below. And thank you, Rocket Money, for sponsoring the video. So just like the first season, there are a ton of characters that I have to introduce to you. So, Anthony Brewer, he is the main character of the season and a botanist who discovers a new plant that causes him a lot of troubles, but ultimately helps him find his missing brother Maddie. He's also the father of Cece and Devin and is played by that one guy you've seen on TV sometimes. Cece Brewer is played by Jaden Bartels, and she's the daughter of Anthony and twin sister of Devin. Cece is incredibly smart, but has a strange obsession with kombucha, which I've never tried before. So I decided to do it on camera. Why does it smell like alcohol? What is kombucha? What the fuck? Oh god. Oh, I'm burping. Ow, why does it hurt? She has a love for debating and is the perfect twin, so everything in her life goes according to plan. Until now. Devin Brewer, played by Sam McCarthy. He is the twin brother to Cece and son of Anthony. And unlike his sister, Devin isn't the brightest kid, to put it in a nice way. And he constantly finds himself in danger. He also has a fat crush on a girl named Frankie. Frankie Garcia Bravo is played by Galea La Salvia. She's the sweetheart of the group, and she tries to keep everyone working together and happy throughout the show, even at the cost of her own feelings. She's dating Trey, but knows Devin likes her, and kind of likes him too. It's a teen show, there has to be a love triangle somewhere. Jen Diaz is played by Anna Ortiz. Jen is an investigator because of a super traumatic event that happened to her and her friends when she was a teenager. This has caused her to become a pretty serious person and a very strict mother to Alex. Alex Diaz, played by Francesca Noel. On the outside, Alex is a tough girl who is a bit of a delinquent and has actually been to juvie. But in reality, she's just incredibly misunderstood, and she finds it hard to connect with her mother, who is a cop. Joseph Trey Jimenez is played by Stony Blyden. Trey has a bit of an ego that leads to his downfall. He's dating Frankie and has been for a while, but is pretty jealous of Devin and Frankie's friendship. And last but definitely not least, CJ Lewis, played by Elijah M. Cooper. CJ is the most likable guy you'll ever meet, but he does have a bit of a lying problem, and he works for his parents as a delivery driver at their restaurant, Gwendolyn's. So he knows the streets pretty well. That still doesn't help him with what's gonna happen to him. Yep, and that's the last of them, so let's just jump straight into the episodes. Just like the last season, a lot of episodes in this season share a name with the books, but have nothing to do with them. For example, this one is Stay Out of the Basement Part 1, and there's nothing in common besides Brewer and Scary Plant. And that's at the very end of the episode, so there's really no reason to compare the book to this episode. This is also the first episode, so it introduces a lot. So it's gonna feel like I'm just explaining every detail, but everything I mention is important somewhere down the line. So hang in there, it's gonna be a minute. This episode starts with a banger. You can feel it, I'm feeling, and it's a musical masterpiece. The song is Pass the Mic by the Beastie Boys, and we listen to a good chunk of it as this group of kids enter this abandoned bunker a little outside of Brooklyn, New York. They explore really deep into the tunnels of this bunker until they find a room full of machines that were left behind. As this one guy tells his friends that this is the place they used to conduct a bunch of insane medical experiments. Medical experiments that no one survived from.
Okay, Mulder, I'm not buying it.
Oh, X-Files reference! Man, this show's better already. They plan on staying the night in this creepy bunker because of a dare, until the blonde guy discovers his little brother followed them into the creepy tunnels. This is where we learn his name is Maddie, and he takes his little brother into the next room to yell at him or something, I guess. But while sneaking around, Maddie's little brother accidentally turned on this machine, which turns on all the other machines. For a second at least. And then this circle on the floor opens up and a black mist covers the kids, and a deep rumbling can be heard all around them as black tears stream down Maddie's face and his skin and skull melt away into a black sludge. Now that's how you start a Goosebumps season. Like legit, that opening scene had me like locked in. I thought that was so cool. And then we jump to 2024, and of course they have to play the trendiest song at the time. It really reminds me of how they started the first season with a genuinely good song. And then 5 minutes later, they played Unholy by Sam Smith. They're just grasping for that teen attention. They're like, "Ugh." But this is where we meet Cece and Devin for the first time. They're moving to Brooklyn for the summer to spend time with their dad while their aunt gets brain surgery. And their dad was kind enough to come pick them up from the subway and bring them back to his house, where he finds someone parked in his driveway. Again. This car belongs to their neighbor and hellion, Trey. Apparently Anthony now lives in his mom's old house, and she didn't have a car, so she would let Trey park his car there. But now Anthony lives there and he can't park his car there because Anthony has a car. But he keeps doing it anyways, just to be annoying. But Anthony won't let that ruin his day. He is genuinely super excited that his kids are staying with him for a while. And he tries his best to make them feel at home, but he has just one rule.
Stay out of the basement.
He said the thing! He said the Goosebumps thing! The thing! Unlike his book counterpart, who did not want his kids anywhere near the basement at all, Anthony Brewer doesn't mind showing his kids what he's working on in the lab. And the lab in this episode actually matches the book description a little more. At least better than the 90s episode. Like I said, he doesn't mind showing his kids the basement, but he still has some boundaries.
Yeah.
Anthony and the kids go out to eat, where we get to meet CJ. He meets Cece and Devin outside his parents' shop, where he gets scolded for taking too long to deliver orders, but of course he has a valid excuse.
The streets were butts to nuts from here to Red Hook.
Too bad his mom debunks it immediately.
Then why was my Google map green all over?
Better luck next time, bud. And since CJ is a nice guy, he invites the twins to hang out with him and a couple of his friends the next day, which of course they have to agree to. Next we cut to Jen the cop, who is at Anthony's house because Trey's father filed a harassment complaint on Anthony, just for telling his son to move his car out of his own driveway. Can you even do that? Apparently this isn't the only dumb thing he's called the cops for, because we learned that Trey's dad puts the cuckoo in Cuckoo Clock of Doom.
He's big on conspiracy theories. Thinks they're putting 5G in the water and aliens are real, so...
Yeah, he sounds pretty crazy. But that's not the only reason she's there to see him. She also gives him a bag with a sweater in it that belonged to his brother Maddie, who disappeared 30 years ago. Yes, it is revealed that Anthony's brother was Maddie in the intro. And he and his friends have all been missing since the night his, skin melted away. And Anthony still has a lot of regret for not stopping his brother from staying in the fort. The next day, Devin and Cece meet their new group of friends out at the park, where they see their old friend Frankie, who they haven't seen in a while, and Devin might have a small crush on.
We're here. Yeah, we're here. I'm here.
I can't tell, he hides it so well. They do catch up a little bit, and finally Devin gets to formally meet Trey, his neighbor, who's Frankie's boyfriend, and it's not problematic in any way. That's sarcasm. The crew group up and they talk about the twins' missing uncle. Devin tells them all he knows about the night, that they spent the night at the fort because of a dare and they didn't come back. And then they joke around about his uncle being killed by ghosts, but Devin doesn't believe in ghosts and claims that he's not even really scared of the bunker, which Frankie thinks is a little hot. Trey doesn't like that his girl is obviously into Devin right now, so he challenges him to go to the bunker by himself, just like his uncle did, which is dumb, and no one with 10 brain cells would even think about doing it because it's super dangerous and highly illegal. But it's Devin we're talking about, so he says yes. It's pretty easy for them to break in because Trey has bolt cutters in his trunk, because of course he does. Why would he not? But before Devin goes in, Cece tries to get him to stop because, frankly, it's stupid, and even more dumb that he's doing it to impress a girl. But Devin says he's just gonna walk down the tunnel into the room, take some pictures, and then leave. Surely nothing can go wrong in that short amount of time. Why are you looking at me like that? Devin gets down to the room very easily, and it's honestly not that scary in there. And while he's being unimpressed in there, Frankie outside talks about how brave he is for actually doing the dare, which of course pisses off her mature college boyfriend. So he walks away from the group where he finds the power box to the facility. And using the bolt cutters, he cuts it open and shoves the cutters into it, causing a massive explosion, making the whole place lose power, at least the outside. Inside, everything turns on for some reason, I guess a power surge. And just like before, a hole in the center of the room opens up. Devin investigates the hole and finds his uncle standing in it. Then a puff of black smoke gets all over him, just like Maddie. Black tears run from Devin's eyes, disorienting him, and Devin tries his best to climb his way out of the tunnel, but he doesn't make it out in time. Luckily, his sister is there to save him, and they all leave together as a group. The next day, Devin doesn't remember anything that happened to him, but they don't have time to worry about that right now because they have to go see Anthony's mom, who's in a retirement home. She had a rough night the night before, and they need to come check on her and make sure she's okay. Then we get a pretty good jump scare where Devin meets his grandmother for the first time, who has dementia and really misses her son Maddie.
Maddie! You smell like Maddie.
Honestly, that jump scare got me. It got me pretty good. That night when they get home, Anthony heads downstairs to do some work, where he opens up his brother's sweater that he got earlier in the day from Jen, where he finds some spiderweb-like residue left on the hood. Being the scientist that he is, he takes a sample of the dust and looks at it under a microscope. And what he finds is interesting. While he does that, upstairs, Devin finds a photo album of his uncle Maddie. And upon seeing Maddie, some memories flash back to Devin. He tries his best to get his dad to come back upstairs so he can tell him, but Anthony is a little busy. As Anthony examines the strange dust, one of his plants reaches down and puts a seed in another dish, which grows rapidly and tries to drag Anthony up the stairs. But the plant isn't there for Anthony. It's there for Devin. As the plant tries to escape the basement, the same strange humming sound from the beginning of the episode rings all around Devin. It's so loud that he tries to escape out of the front door, but the plant doesn't want to lose him. So it decides to take a different path in the sewers. While Devin is outside, the ringing stops. But that doesn't mean he's safe. They drag Devin through the sewer tunnels and pin him to the ground. And then it forcefully puffs the same black smoke in his face again. Luckily, Devin finds a pipe laying on the ground and throws it at a lever holding this metal gate open and kills the plant. Honestly, kind of impressive for him. Didn't know he had it in him. Back in the lab, the plant almost completely disappears, but it did do some pretty bad damage to Anthony's arm.
Well, that's not good.
Then the episode ends with a mysterious person who's printed out all of our main characters and pinned them onto a board with the missing teens from the 90s. Okay, what does that song have to do with Goosebumps? Okay, I'm sorry if this segment was a little long. I tried to keep it short, but like I said, they introduced so much stuff in this first episode, I have to talk about it. In the last season, they like instantly introduced everybody, so it was a bit easier to just start the segment. But this episode, it spreads them out over like the first 30 minutes. Overall, I think it's a pretty solid first episode. The intro was especially good because it set up the mystery perfectly. It does feel like they are cramming a little too much into the episode though, and there are a few scenes that are a little unnecessary. Like, they're nice scenes, like there's a scene with Anthony eating with his kids and they have a nice little chat, or the twins getting bathroom supplies in the store for some reason. But honestly, we kind of don't need those scenes in there. And using context clues, we can learn that Cece is a debater and she's going to this big debate camp. Hell, there's a whole episode about her doing that. Like, I like the heads up, I appreciate it, but we don't need a 5-minute conversation about it when it happens for an hour in a couple of episodes. And the convenience store scene is also there to introduce Devin's crush on Frankie and also introduce Alex. When just 2 minutes after the convenience store scene, they are hanging out in the park with these people. And we learn all the same stuff right in there. So if you just take that convenience store scene out, that scene in the park perfectly sets up the dynamics. It just felt like a few little filler scenes that set up or introduce something that could have been set up better down the line a little bit. And this isn't the only time the show does this. But yeah, there are 8 episodes in the series. You don't have to cram as much as you can in just this one episode. But it is the first episode, so everything is just set up and mystery, and I can't really say anything about the story just yet because nothing has really happened yet. But I can say so far this season is 100 times scarier than the first season. It felt like in the first season they forgot that they needed to be scary until like halfway through the season. And then after that, it wasn't even that scary. But this one starts off with the spooky stuff and the jump scares. I also really liked how they used the plants in this episode. It's actually pretty terrifying that a plant is strong enough to just pull you around the house or forcefully tie you down and force feed you mysterious black powders. They did a really good job at capturing the horror of sentient plants. I'm not saying it's the best, but they did a good job. And it was honestly really awesome to see. But this was just part 1 of Stay Out of the Basement, so we have a whole nother part to break down, and hopefully I can keep this one under 10 minutes. This episode is where the story to the season actually starts, and it starts off pretty damn strong. The first thing we see is Anthony being awakened by this flesh-like worm thing coming out of his arm. At first, he's intrigued by the thing inside of his arm, then he starts to log it into his computer until he finally realizes,
Oh, holy crap! There's something in my arm!
So he cuts open his forearm and uses a garden rake to pull out a seed that was growing inside his arm, which is such an awesome scene, honestly. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole series. Anthony calls up one of his superiors named Patty and explains to her that he got a sample of mold off of his missing brother's hoodie, which created a plant bulb, and he needs some help identifying the species of plant. But she tells Anthony that the sample he sent in for evaluation doesn't resemble a plant, but an animal, a carnivorous animal at that. So Anthony heads out to the pet store to get some food to feed his plant, but not before telling Devin a few plant jokes.
Hey, what kind of plant should you always watch out for? An ambush.
Man, he really is a nerd, isn't he? Here's where our plot lines for this episode kind of overlap. Trey is getting pretty mad and petty about Devin and Frankie, and he parks in Anthony's driveway again. But Anthony has finally had enough of him doing this, so he gives Trey something to file a complaint about. That'll hopefully keep him out of the yard for at least a little bit. After that, Anthony heads downstairs and feeds his carnivorous plant a rat, which makes it grow a little bigger. So Anthony armors up and carefully shoves it into the freezer, and then heads out to a butcher to get some more meat. And when Anthony comes home, he has a whole goat, I think. He also finds that someone has broken into his house and has destroyed everything. And just as he starts to panic, he gets another call from Patty, who informs him that he's discovered a new species and he needs to bring it in so that they can verify it. But when he goes downstairs to get it, it's gone. All right, now it's time for the B plot of the episode. Yeah, this season's also pretty weird because each episode has a B plot that's also important. In the first season, there was like B plots, but it was all love triangles and stuff I didn't really have to talk about. This one, it like pertains to the story. But for the B plot in this episode, Frankie wakes up pissed at Trey for what he did to Devin in the abandoned facility. So she shows up to his job to tell him that she is tired of him being so immature and childish and that it's over. But Trey doesn't want this to happen, so he tries to gaslight his way into making her think breaking up is a bad idea. Typical man, am I right, ladies?
Hi. So buff and handsome.
Thankfully, she stands her ground and leaves him. And a couple of hours later, Devin shows up to get a coffee from her coffee shop, where Frankie tells him that her and Trey broke up, and Devin seems a bit too happy to hear the news, and almost instantly these two start heavily flirting with each other, which of course Trey catches them doing. Later in the day, Trey confronts Devin for trying to steal his girl, even though she's not his girl anymore, which leads to them fighting in the yard and Frankie having to break it up, which makes her mad at both of them for being so immature.
Stay away from her, all right? What, you're gonna give me a green neck with your fake-ass silver chain?
Oh my god, he cooked him. He cooked him so hard. Frankie is already mad at Trey, of course, but now she's pissed at Devin because he's starting to act just like Trey. And he's also trying to act like he knows her inside and out, even though they haven't seen each other since the 8th grade. Cut to that night after being beat up by Devin, and then a couple of hours later, Anthony, you know. Trey is going to get revenge. He breaks into Dr. Brewer's basement and destroys a lot of his stuff, which as a plant person myself, really hurts to watch. I know it sounds nerdy, but plant shit is expensive. And then like the dumbass he is, he takes some pictures of him with the destruction. You know, so you can just go ahead and send it over to the cops. Unfortunately for Trey, karma has caught up to him. Worried about him, Frankie also breaks into Dr. Brewer's basement to make sure Trey is okay. Sadly, she doesn't find Trey down there, but she does run into Devin comes home and is also met face to face with the monster, who knocks him out and leaves him there on the porch. But that doesn't stop Devin from saving his friend Frankie. We cut to Frankie waking up at Trey's dad's body shop. The monster is rummaging through all the drawers looking for something. And when Frankie wakes up, the monster shows her its necklace, proving that it's Trey underneath all that disgusting stuff. And he needs help. Really bad. Frankie uses this tool and tries to scrape whatever is covering him off, but it's not working. But as she does that, Devin finds her and tries to save Frankie and fight the monster off. Like I said, he tries to fight the monster off. Monster Trey starts to throw Devin around like a potato sack and starts beating the crap out of him. And he only stops when Frankie has to intervene. Then the episode ends with the black sludge gathering together and into Trey's busted up car. There's also a mini side quest in this episode where Trey and CJ explore a sewer to get more clues about what's happening to him, and Devin shoves his hand into a bunch of sewage and pulls out one of the massive vines. It's a little gross. And their little adventure ends when they hear Frankie scream from inside his basement, which of course leads to Devin finding Monster Trey. It's kind of just squeezed in there a little bit. They're like, shit, we needed 10 minutes of something. Like I said before, this episode is really solid. It has some of the best body horror in all of Goosebumps so far, and it only gets beaten out by some other scenes that appear later in this season. But I mean, this episode starts pretty intense. It starts with a seed being inside of Anthony's arm. That's insane and awesome. I also love that Anthony was so devoted to his work that he doesn't notice for a hot second that this bulbous thing is growing inside of his arm. It's awesome. And also, the plant monster in this episode looks really good. It looks incredible. It's absolutely horrific, and I can only imagine it feels very suffocating for Trey. Like, just imagine something covering your body entirely and you can't get it off. He has Lord knows how many pounds of disgusting black flesh and sludge strapped onto him. And just like the last season, I'm not the biggest fan of the love triangles they try to put in the show. At least they actually incorporated it into the story a bit better this time, because you can tell that Devin truly feels for Frankie, and Frankie also was starting to feel him. But if Frankie didn't truly love Trey, she wouldn't have tried to find him and help him in his monstrous form. And if Devin didn't really like Frankie, he wouldn't try to save her from this monster in front of her. And if Trey was a nicer guy, he'd probably still be alive right now. But that's enough about that admittedly pretty awesome episode. The Haunted Car is a Goosebumps Series 2000 book, and it's cool that they're finally giving the... Hey, do you guys hear that? Ow, damn, I think I'm getting this like crazy headache right now, guys. Luckily I had like a backup plan just in case something like this happened. Cue the Simply Callin' bit, please.
I just don't understand why we gotta be on our best behavior. It's not even our own channel.
Exactly. As I've explained before, we're gonna make a guest appearance on King Newsme's channel. He has more subs, meaning there's gonna be a lot of fresh eyes on us, and first impressions are everything.
I mean, so much for first impressions. You're on right now, dumbass.
Shit. Hey, I'm Simply Colin. You may know me by my ranking series here on YouTube, or you may know me as the man who ate 15 Burger King Whoppers in one sitting. A feat I'm very proud of, and one my doctor says I'm very lucky to be alive from. But today I have been tasked with covering the third episode in the Goosebumps The Vanishing series, titled The Haunted Car, which is actually a Goosebumps Series 2000 book, which I don't think is very popular. I mean, I could be wrong, but it definitely doesn't have the same clout as any of the heavy hitters out there. Even within the realm of the Series 2000 books, this one isn't brought up as much. I mean, this book was reprinted under the classic Goosebumps moniker in 2015 to better tie in with the Goosebumps movie, and still, nobody really talks about it.
Personally, I blame the book cover.
Yeah, Artie's kinda got a point. Even if a Goosebumps book was bad, its relevancy was kind of determined by its book cover. Never was the biggest fan of the You Can't Scare Me book, but that cover is iconic. And in the case of the Haunted Car, I mean, it looks cool, but it's not really a cover that sticks with you. The French cover actually conveys an eerier tone, in my opinion. And the Korean cover just looks cool as hell. I love this art style. Korean Goosebumps book covers are just legit awesome. If you got some free time after the video, I recommend looking some up.
Aw, dude, can we please look some up right now?
Dude, no, not now. We haven't even talked about the actual episode yet, and we've already been here for a hot minute.
Yeah, probably not a strong first impression, huh?
So, the Haunted Car episode isn't a particularly good episode, and like all other entries in the series, it's only ever so loosely based on the book. You know, kinda like how LaCroix is only loosely based on the flavor it says it is.
You'll get more lemon flavor thinking about lemons than drinking a lemon LaCroix.
But you know what this episode is? It's fun. It's dumb fun, but it's fun nonetheless. And it somehow does manage to have an emotional through line that does somewhat resonate. You see, this episode centers around Alex, who prior to this episode was labeled as a delinquent by society and her own mom. Well, at the start we find out why. As a year prior, she was hanging out with these kids that were playing with fireworks indoors. And when shit starts to turn south, she's left alone and the blame is pinned on her. After some time in juvie and adopting a bold new fashion statement, we are back in the present day. This opening immediately makes Alex a much more sympathetic character. Not to say she didn't have any redeeming qualities whatsoever before this revelation. I'm just saying, the girl's got some layers now.
Like an onion. You know? Like from Shrek.
Just ignore him. Sometimes his humor gets stuck in 2015.
Hey man, you wanna watch some MLG edits or some cringe compilations?
Anyways, while serving some community service, picking up trash off the streets, Alex just so happens to see Murph, who was the guy who started all the fireworks stuff in the first place, and therefore was responsible for Alex's current predicament. However, her supervisor prevents her from doing anything in this moment. But when she's eventually done for the day, she just so happens to stumble across Trey's car and says, screw it, and just straight up steals it. Her sole intentions here is to find Murph and confront him. The ankle monitor places a strict 10 p.m. curfew onto Alex, so doing this without a vehicle would be impossible. Plus, in Alex's mind, she's already labeled as a delinquent by society, so why not steal a car? Best case scenario, she finds Murph, gets him to confess to what really happened, and she clears her name. Worst case scenario, she continues to be labeled as a delinquent, but at least this time around, it's because of something she actually did, i.e., stealing a car. This is what I like about Alex. Without those additional layers, her stealing that car might come across as an arbitrary way to keep the plot moving along. But instead, there's actual depth there. It's not much, but it's something.
That's what your mom said last night.
You realize that joke insinuates that you have a small dick, right?
No, wait.
One thing leads to another, and Cece tags along for the adventure. Or rather, she's extorted into joining. Alex initially picks her up as a nice gesture, offering to drive her to her debate stuff, but then swiftly uses the video of her stealing stuff as blackmail, forcing Cece to help find out where Murph currently is. This is also where we get the first remnants that this car is haunted, as none of the controls on the console seem to work, and the AC starts blasting some serious heat, and Alex can't do anything to stop it. Ooh, so scary. I know this is slowly building up to something scarier, but This just feels like driving any 2014 Nissan. You know what I mean, Artie?
No. My driver's license got suspended back in 2004.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You know, I'll be real, I'm surprised you ever got one in the first place. Eventually, after finding Murph, a little chase ensues. However, Cece is able to break through to Alex by saying that it's not worth it. But the car has different plans and continues to floor it, prompting the two to crash into a streetlight. Cece capitalizes on this opportunity to book it out of there. But to Alex's shock, the car begins to repair itself, and it promptly locks her in. And then it goes on a reckless, high-speed joyride, all while blasting System of a Down's Chop Suey. And I'm sorry, this isn't scary. This is just what it's like driving with a divorced dad in his 40s.
Didn't you make the exact same joke in your own video?
I mean, when it's true, it's true. And this sequence is just so much fun. It's kind of what this whole episode was building up to, and man, does it deliver. The car eventually drives off a cliff and into the water, with Alex barely making it out in time, with the car dissolving into black goo. And then Jen, Alex's mom, is able to find her and drive her home just in time for Ankle Monitor's curfew. It's a short scene, but it's a touching scene that really shows the turning point for these two characters' relationship. Jen, throughout this entire episode, was always kind of one step behind Alex, and was gaining a greater sense of what's truly going on via Anthony. So Jen's more warming embrace at the end does make sense, but does come off a bit forced. Yeah. Devin and Frankie are also in this episode. Half of their story is them just grappling with the fact that they killed a man because, you know, and the other half is just them trying to unravel what's going on. It's pretty inconsequential, all things considered. No big revelations are really made here, and it really just detracts from the actual story. But yeah, it may not be a great episode by any means, but as I said at the start, it's a lot of fun. Anyways, I think that does it for my segment. So, for anyone that doesn't like me, wasn't that painful, hopefully. I just want to thank King Newsome. It was an honor being on your channel. You know, again.
You think we're gonna get any new subscribers from this appearance?
No. If anything, we somehow lost subs, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Wanna get blackout drunk and watch some Jersey Shore?
Oh, dude, thank God. I thought you'd never ask.
Oh, what had happened? Oh, my head. What's going on? Oh, a YouTube video. I have to agree with Colin, this episode is a ton of fun. So far, out of all of the characters in the show, I find Alex to be the most interesting. She's on this journey to clear her name so that her cop mom respects her and trusts her again, and I personally find that very admirable of her. I know we've seen the car before in the Goosebumps movie, but it really didn't do anything but drive Slappy around in that movie. So I'm glad we got to see the haunted car on the big screen, I guess. And I'm glad we got to actually see it try to kill some people and to chop suey. And I love that song. He did leave out a bit of Anthony's side of the episode, which is okay because I'll do it right here. So Anthony calls Jen over so he can file a police report on Trey. And they look around the town for him and discover that nobody has seen him for a while. He's also disappeared in a similar fashion to Maddie, with him seeming to vanish with nothing but his clothes left behind. Anthony then heads home to find the vine that Devin and CJ found in the last episode, and when he cuts it open and squeezes it, the same black sludge oozes out. He discovers that just like the microbots in Big Hero 6, the sludge points to the direction of the host. So Anthony follows it all the way to the bunker, where we get to see why he feels so guilty about his big brother disappearing.
Mom's gonna blame this on me. You know what, I wish I didn't have a big brother.
And while he's in the bunker, Anthony finds a naked Trey, so he calls up Jen to tell her, oh boy, it's happening again. Monster Blood is one of the most popular Goosebumps books from the 90s, and Stein seemed to have liked it a lot because he has 3 sequels. In my opinion, those books only get worse and worse, but don't come at me with it, I'm sorry. It was only a matter of time before they somehow squeezed Monster Blood into the new show, and I really hate to say this show made Monster Blood actually scary. Oh hey, don't boo me, you know it's true, and I'm gonna show you. This episode starts with a flashback. We watch as Cece gets ready for school, and today is a big day because it's the day that she gets accepted into her massive, prestigious debate camp. But when she gets to school, she doesn't make it in. But Cece is a level-headed girl, and she takes it pretty well. Cut to present day, and as we already know, she hasn't told anyone that she didn't make it into the camp, not even her mom or dad. But she does have a pretty important college interview today, and while she's headed to that, Alex stops her to give her her precious kombucha, because she left it in Trey's car when the car tried to, you know, kill them. Cece is stressing over this interview, so she stops to get herself some kombucha, and while she does that, she sees some of her other friends. Well, friends. It seems more like they're all competing with each other to see who's going to be the most successful of the group, and Cece, she's falling behind a bit, which is just adding to her stress. Luckily, she escapes the conversation because her kombucha is ready, but she didn't think to wash the cup before putting her drink in it. You see, in the last episode, while the girls were a bit distracted, the car puffed some of the black dust into her cup, and she just drank whatever it was, which is disgusting. Almost as disgusting as this shit. She makes it to the interview, and it starts off great. Cece and the interviewer hit it off. Oh? Looks like somebody had a little bit too much kombucha. God. Not only that, her nose begins to bleed black blood, and then it begins. Just like her dad and her brother, she begins to hear the strange, high screeching, low hum noise. And she runs all the way to her mom's house to puke it up with no recollection on how she got there. Scared, she calls Devin to come help her, and unfortunately, he takes a really long time to get there, and while she waits on him, the disgusting pile of ooze grows to an impossible size in their sink. It begins to chase her throughout her house while growing to be massive. She does manage to stop it for a second by electrocuting it with this lamp, but it's not enough to completely stop it. It's out for blood, and it tries to kill her by trapping her against the wall. Luckily for her, Anthony gave her a taser in the first episode, so she uses that to help her escape. She makes it down the hall and into the elevator just in time for it to get on top of the elevator and try to trap her inside, which is my worst fear. No joke, it's one of my irrational fears. I don't like elevators. The disgusting goo oozes down from the roof of the elevator, slowly reaching for her. And in a huge stroke of luck, Devin and Frankie are there to save her right on time. After they get far away from that disgusting creature, Devin confronts Cece about lying to him and everyone for so long about the camp. She admits that she didn't want to admit that she had failed at something, and she didn't want to seem pitiful to everybody. But Devin does the good brotherly thing and makes her feel better and gives her a massive hug in a very sweet moment. Then they all take the subway back to Gravesend, and as you could probably guess, the blob comes back. It wants Cece and it won't stop until it catches her. And it's now even bigger, and it's gotten a little bit faster than before. She does manage to get rid of the blob in a very ballsy move. She jumps onto the tracks in the subway and uses electricity from an exposed wire to make it freeze up, and with the help from a train, kills the disgusting monster. And rather than just go home and rest or something, the three head back to the facility to get some more answers. But they don't even make it inside the tunnel before seeing their dad walking out with a hazmat suit and something in a briefcase. The B-plot in this episode follows Devin, Trey, and Frankie. Trey is in a weird coma-like state, and Frankie, being the sweetheart that she is waiting on him to wake up. Well, it might be out of concern for Trey, or maybe she feels a bit guilty because she dropped a car on him. But Devin and Frankie are kicked out of the room by a doctor who mysteriously says,
This will all be behind you soon enough.
Then Jen and Anthony come to visit Trey to ask him some questions about what happened to him. But instead they are greeted by the doctor. Obviously he's in no state to answer any questions, and there is really no set time for him to get better or wake up. But Anthony really isn't that worried about Trey, he's more worried about whatever's inside of him. So whenever the doctor and Jen leave, he sneaks back into the room and pulls out a petri dish of the black substance and holds it over Trey. But it doesn't do anything. But whenever Anthony is outside about to leave, it starts to move towards this lady getting inside her Range Rover. The same lady who is pretending to be Trey's doctor. Just like the last episode, I think this episode's a ton of fun. I will say that the first half of the episode is boring for the most part, but the last 15 to 20 minutes of them being chased by that creepy blob is actually really cool and a lot of fun. I mean, that blob is relentless. It wants Cece and it's not going to stop. And it might just be me, but I hate when things are chasing me, so I find this weird blob to be pretty scary. I do wish they showed us what would have happened if it did touch her. Like maybe in the subway it eats a rat or something and then spits out its bones. Or maybe it just absorbs it completely and it never comes out. It would just give it a bit more of a spooky factor, because as it is right now, I have no idea what would happen if it caught her, so I'm not really that concerned about it. I also like that we finally got a scene with Devin and Cece actually being nice to each other. For most of the season, they've just been butting heads because Devin is obviously a bit jealous of Cece, and Cece thinks she's better than him in every way. But this episode's really a turnaround for them, and they start actually supporting each other a lot more. And I love when siblings support each other in these shows. What can I say? it gets my heart feeling good. It does kind of suck that most of the episode is centered around what was going on with Trey in the hospital. I wish that we got to see a bit more of Cece being chased around by a scary blob and not a dude in a coma. But luckily for us, this next episode does give us more scares. The Boy Who Cried Monster is obviously a retelling of the popular Goosebumps story, The Girl Who Cried Monster. And it kind of follows the story better than other episodes in this season. And it kind of follows that story a bit better than all the other episodes in this season. This one follows CJ, and as I've mentioned already, he's a bit of a liar, just like Lucy in the story. So at least they have something in common. One of his most common lies is stealing people's foods, mainly egg rolls, and then telling them that he didn't do it, which implies that he did do it. It's just a silly little joke that actually pays off in this episode, but you'll understand it better if we just hop into the episode. This episode starts with the last episode left off, except we get to see what Anthony was doing inside the bunker. And coming back to this place is giving him horrible flashbacks to that haunting night. He finds a way to turn everything on, and you know what happens next. Next, we cut to CJ, who's delivering to a really old, creepy house. He can see the customer inside, so he rings the doorbell, but she doesn't answer. So he cracks the door open a little bit, which is weird to do, honestly. And he calls out to her to let her know that her food is here. But she doesn't move an inch. She just stays there and eerily says,
Bring them inside.
For some reason, he follows the old lady deeper into her creepy old house and all the way into a darker room in the back of her house. Concerned, he tries to make sure that she's okay. It does seem like she's having an episode of some sort, but it was just a little fib of a story. It was honestly a really intense and scary scene. If they could have done more scenes like this in this season, it would have been more amazing. Turns out he actually had to deliver to that house, but he was too scared to go up to the house, so he didn't even ring the doorbell or let her know that her food was there. And this isn't the first time something like this has happened. His mom is tired of giving out free food because he's too scared to ring a doorbell. And it's also hindering his chances of becoming a manager.
Well, you can't even manage deliveries.
She's got a point, bro. Anthony wakes up and it seems like he has the plague or something. So to make himself feel better, he decides to order some soup from Gwendolyn's. And when CJ gets there to deliver his food, Anthony accidentally leaves his money inside the house. So he invites CJ in, where he witnesses Anthony's sickness on full display. And his eyeball fell out of his head! Understandably, CJ runs terrified from the house, while Anthony is surprisingly calm about his eyeball not being in the right spot. He even looks at himself with his own eye. It's only when he sees the black goo when he freaks out. He runs downstairs to discover that a tiny cut was made in his hazmat sleeve, and it's just enough for the mysterious black powder to infect him. CJ runs all the way back to his mom to explain what just happened, but you know, CJ is known to stretch the truth sometimes, so she doesn't fully believe him, and she says that if he's actually hurt, then they need to go back to his house and make sure that Anthony is okay. But when they get there, he's completely fine. No sickness, no dangling eyeball, just regular old Anthony Brewer. He then says that he feels fine now, and he blows CJ's story off by saying it's them damn horror shows he's been watching.
Too many horror shows on TV, I say.
Didn't expect Anthony to be one of those adults that's like, it's them damn video games, but... And CJ's mom is pissed that he would lie to her face like that. She's so mad that she fires him from his job. And later that day, Anthony invites CJ over to explain everything to him, and even to try and help him get his job back. But when CJ gets over there, Anthony is surprised to see him. He doesn't remember inviting him over at all. And when he realizes what's happening, he tells CJ to
Run.
but still involuntarily yanks him inside the house. Anthony then ties CJ down in the basement and seems to be having some sort of weird episode. He talks about turning everybody into one of us, and then like a switch, doesn't know what's going on. While he has CJ tied up, he tries to feed this viscous, disgusting black liquid to him, which is gross enough on its own, but he tries to feed him some that he puked up into a cup. That's vile. Somehow CJ manages to break Anthony's finger in another gross and horrific scene in this episode, and thank God CJ is saved by Jen coming over to give Anthony a VHS that she has been hiding of what happened that night his brother disappeared. And this VHS proves that something more happened with Maddie, and now she believes that it's happening again to their kids. Jen has never watched the VHS, but she did hide it for many years, which understandably pisses Anthony off. Not only is it evidence to help find out what happened to his brother, but it was also Anthony's tape from his camera that he let his brother use that night. So technically it's Anthony's property. So Anthony kicks Jen out and then goes downstairs to find that CJ has somehow escaped. He tries to quickly escape past Anthony, but it doesn't go so well. And now he's going to have to drink the liquid from the source. Luckily, he's saved by his friends, just in time. And then Anthony's head talks and says that he has a plan for his daughter, Cece. This episode is wild. Absolutely wild. All the kids escape evil Anthony for understandable reasons. Then they all gather upstairs to talk about if it's even the real Anthony down there, which I think it's safe to say it isn't. Bro is literally a talking head. What more do you need? They also find the VHS that Jen left behind, and they head off to Devin and Cece's grandma's place to watch it. Lastly, Anthony is visited by the woman who acted like Trey's doctor. She packs Anthony up in a bag and leaves us with a cliffhanger. B-plot time! The twins have a hard time coping with the fact that their father is causing this whole thing to happen to them. So they decide to track everything that has happened to them so far. They have a connection with Devin and the vines, and Trey with the plant thing, but Cece doesn't know how that kombucha turned into that disgusting monster until Devin brings up Trey's car. Then all the puzzle pieces slowly connect. And now Alex is being roped into all this mess. So they confront Alex about the car, and it took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize that Alex and Cece dated, or at least like each other. There were many hints, but what can I say? I'm a guy. I don't pick up on hints. And while Cece and Alex talk, Frankie leaves Devin because Trey finally woke up in the hospital, which pisses Devin off because him and Frankie had a little moment the night before. So to cool off, he decides to take a walk where he meets this cute girl, Hannah, who somehow knows he was at the fort. I don't trust it. She says that there used to be a summer camp on the fort and a lot of bad stuff has happened there. And because of that, they now call the fort Camp Nightmare. And then we catch up with Anthony and CJ in the basement. This episode has some of the best tension in the whole series. It also has some of the best body horror in the whole series. I know Trey being covered in whatever that shit was in a few episodes ago was pretty terrifying, but it just hits so much harder when a man's eyeball is outside of his face. And it didn't even end there. They showed a broken finger for an uncomfortable amount of time. And then Anthony's head being knocked off of his shoulders. What the hell's going on? They really went all in for this episode, and I really appreciate it. And once again, I wish they spent more time with CJ and Anthony. Listen, I yearn for the anthology part of this thing. I do think it would have been cool to watch Anthony fall deeply into this more evil persona throughout the episode. I like evil Anthony. I think he's interesting. Man, I talked about this episode for a long time. I must have really liked it. I think this is my favorite episode. This is another episode that changes the name of a Goosebumps book. In this instance, it's The Ghost Next Door, but that book is named after the girl next door trope in movies, so this episode is actually just named after a TV trope. But this is one of the more unique episodes, and I'm really excited to talk about it, so let's just hop right into it. We start the episode with the woman who picked up Anthony's head in the last episode. She pulls up to this abandoned-looking building, and inside is a secret science lab, where Anthony is laid out piece by piece. The lady explains that he was contaminated by something that will reduce his body down into a sludge. And she's just helping speed up that process so that she can help him. She tells Anthony that there's something in the hatch that he opened up that wants to destroy the world, and it's her job to keep it buried. But Anthony's asking too many questions and she needs to focus, so she melts his head. Might have been a bit of an overreaction if you ask me. Next, the group meet up at Cece's grandma's retirement home to watch the VHS that they found in the last episode. The tape starts off with Anthony recording his experiments, but it quickly turns into more of a home video. We see that Anthony and Maddie had a very loving, brotherly relationship. Maddie would pick on him and call him names to his face, but he always had his brother's back. Even when their dad complains about Anthony's grass-growing hobby, Maddie speaks up and says that he thinks it's really cool that he wants to be a botanist, that it gives his brother something interesting to talk about. Good siblings? Thumbs up from me. Cut to later that day, Anthony is showing Maddie how to use the camera so that they can prove that they went into Camp Nightmare. And while showing him how it works, Maddie spots the new girl and walks over to flirt with her a little bit. And when Anthony zooms in on her, we see it's Hannah. The same Hannah Devin was flirting with the day before.
Wait, why'd it stop?
Internet off?
Okay, so throughout the episode, they stop the tape a few times. And sometimes it's so that they can say a joke. Usually the joke is, haha, Gen Z stupid because old technology. But I'm going to skip pretty much all these unless it's important. When we get the tape working again, we meet the rest of Maddie's friends. Starting with Samir, who is...
You will know my name as the Lord when I take my vengeance upon thee.
Don't Pulp Fiction this.
Obviously the goofball. And next we meet Nicole, who has really good music taste.
My favorite band is Smashing Pumpkins. Oh, wait, no, Hole.
Maddie gives the camera over to Hannah so that she could be their camera woman for the night. But when they explain what they're gonna do, Hannah bails. So Maddie walks over to try and talk her into going with them. And while he does that, a young Jen walks up and presses Hannah on talking to her boyfriend. But but they broke up and she just doesn't want to accept it. And when reminded that they're not together anymore, Jen gets mad and steals Anthony's camera and pulls a pretty mean prank on Hannah, which really pisses Maddie off, and he basically tells her to screw off and never talk to him again. So she grabs the camera and tells it,
You know what, Maddie Brewer? I hope you die at Camp Nightmare.
ooh, I see why she hid the tape for 30 years. Hey, at least Alex now knows that her mom wasn't always a goody two-shoes like she acts like she is now. Later, all the friends gather in the park to head over to the camp. And since Maddie stood up for Hannah earlier in the day, she decides to repay him by being their camera woman for the night. Suddenly, just like in episode 1, Cece's grandma starts freaking out, telling Maddie to not go into the fort and panicking, which alerts a nurse who tells the kids that they have to leave. Well, they're not gonna do that. They just fast forward the tape all the way to them finding Anthony in the bunker. And then we get another POV of what happened at the very beginning of the series. And while Maddie is locked in this state of shock, something pulls Hannah into the hatch and knocks her out for a while. But when she comes to, everyone is gone. And there's nothing else to do but explore the creepy abandoned bunker. Until she hears a crash. And when she walks over to investigate, she steps into the black sludge and then discovers something horrifying. Maddie, Samir, and Nicole are encased in this pod of sludge, with their faces frozen in time. Something slams open a door behind her, and she captures a glimpse of something hiding behind the machinery. She tries to hide from the monster, but it manages to find her pretty quickly. And she almost escapes the monster, but it's no use. She gets dragged away by the mysterious monster as someone in a white hazmat suit watches idly by in the background. And to no one's surprise, it's the same woman who's been behind this the whole time. But she has to skedaddle out of there quickly because Anthony hears Hannah scream and comes to find their clothes piled up on the floor, and they're nowhere to be seen. And that's where the tape ends, and Trey reveals that he was in one of those pods. And that must mean that now Anthony is in one of those pods as well. They also realize that the woman in the hazmat suit was pretending to be Trey's doctor. Either way, all roads seem to lead to Camp Nightmare. And for the B plot in this episode, Devin meets Hannah at the same park bench that they met before. He doesn't remember why he came to see her, but she says it's so that she can take him to Camp Nightmare.
Why do they call it that again?
Yeah, why do they call it that? Because Camp Nightmare is my favorite OG episode, and it's very upsetting that it got turned into a secret government bunker. Actually, Maddie tells us why, and it's because of the medical experiments and they killed a lot of people, but I'm still upset about it. Hannah guides Devin all the way to Camp Nightmare, and she takes him to the edge of the fort and tells him that he needs to jump off the cliff into the rocks to save his dad. Somehow. And he almost does this until Cece shows up and stops him. Honestly, he probably would have jumped off if she hadn't been there because he was doing whatever she told him to do. And the force must be strong with her, am I right? She's like, kill yourself. He does try to convince everyone that it's okay because Hannah is with him and she knows best. Until Cece says,
Devin, there's no one there.
Hannah was a ghost. Or a figment of his imagination because of the black dust. It's actually the black dust part, but it would have been cool if she was a ghost. Surprisingly, Trey is the one to pull Devin off the ledge, and then they all head home to talk to the head of Anthony, which we know isn't there anymore, but they don't know that. Eventually, they discover that their dad's head is gone, but luckily for us, they have technology. They use the Ring doorbell to discover who took him, and they have a hunch about where he could be, but I don't know if they know how bad it actually is. Okay, so this episode is actually really cool. I love the idea of a found footage episode, and one that's done pretty well, honestly. It's honestly no surprise that this is the second highest rated episode in the whole series according to IMDb. It gives us a lot of answers and does it in a really creative and new way. And I love that we actually got to get a glimpse into Anthony's childhood at the start, and it's awesome that his love for plants has been around for a long time. It's also cool to get to know some new characters for once, and it's also really cool that we got another POV of that opening scene and seeing what actually happened to the teens. And it's really terrifying being trapped into something like that. And if Trey remembers being in one of those pods, that means they probably are aware that they are stuck in a pod as well, and they have been for 30 years. My claustrophobia could not. I would freak. It would literally be like hell for me. It's no surprise that I think this is one of the best episodes in the whole series. It's definitely one of the scariest episodes in the whole series. Like a sci-fi Blair Witch episode or something. It has really good tension building. I love the effects they used for the old camera. It's really a great episode. So this episode is named after my favorite Goosebumps episode, one that I wholeheartedly believe is the best episode in the whole OG series. Now, you probably have guessed it has absolutely nothing to do with the OG episode. Yeah, you're seeing a trend here, I'm sure. They've been calling the bunker Camp Nightmare for the past few episodes, so it does make sense to call this episode that, but god dang it, I wanted a whole season around Camp Nightmoon. That would have been awesome. Anyways, this episode is similar to the last one where we spend a lot of time away from the core group, so that's a lot of fun. Let's get into it. We start this episode episode in 1968. Great googly moogly. We learned that before it was a government facility, it was a civil war fort, and then later used for torpedo experiments, and then turned into a children's camp. Or a camp is nearby, at least. And of course, the camp is called Camp Night Moon, so at least they kept that from the story. A counselor brings a bunch of kids to the fort to get a badge when something crashes into the water and takes the poor guy. Cut back to the present day, and the group are still trying to figure out what the hell is going on with Anthony and what happened on the tape they watched. Trey finds an old episode of 2020 that his dad was on, and you'll never believe who was in that episode. The same lady that keeps appearing everywhere. We see that her name is Ramona Pamani, and that she is the one who started the drowning theory for Maddie and his friends. Oddly enough, she has zero online presence, but someone named Avi Pamani does. And he wrote a book that could be useful. But how do they know that they're related? They could just be two different people with the same last name, right? Anyways, the group decide to split up. Devin, Trey, and Frankie will go to the hospital to watch the security footage to see if it's actually her that went to that hospital, while CJ, Alex, and Cece go to the library to try and find Dr. Pamani's book. At the hospital, they actually manage to get a look at the security footage because of a mishap that happened around Trey. That may or may not have been Ramona's fault. But a quick look at the footage shows what we already know, that Ramona was indeed the one that was pretending to be Trey's doctor. And they follow her all the way outside and take note of her license plate so that they can track it using Trey's dad's auto shop tracking system. While those three are busy with that, the other three somehow managed to find the book. Turns out that this Avi dude was hella smart. And while looking through the book, Alex finally asks an intelligent question for the first time in a while.
How do we even know that this guy's related to that woman?
Thank you! How do you just know this? But they find a picture of Dr. Pamani and his daughter, who was coincidentally Ramona Pamani. You win this time, Goosebumps. Using the license plate, they find the address that Ramona is staying at. They gather back up, and Trey uses his trusty old bolt cutters to break into her home/lab. And while investigating, Devin finds his dad's clothes in a biohazard bin, and Trey finds a suitcase with these vials of an unknown liquid in it that he takes for himself. Minor theft, you know? And Cece finds a journal that Ramona has been writing herself since 1969, just 1 year after our camp counselor friend was snatched by that mysterious thing. And this is when the fun part of the episode begins. We go back to the past like Samurai Jack to the Orion Project. It's a top secret project led by Dr. Avi Pamani. It's so top secret that the other scientists don't even get to use their names, only a number that they are assigned. Luckily, those numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, so that should be pretty easy to remember. They all get their own super fancy white hazmat suit, and they head to the hatch where they will stay there for a very, very long time. And we finally get to see what's inside this mysterious hatch, and it's a freaking alien spaceship. What the hell? I thought this was a plant thing. What happened to the plants? The whole reason they're there is to figure out what the hell this thing is and what it wants. They don't know anything, but if you come into contact with it, then you get potted like our little camp counselor friend here.
The counselor from Camp Night Moon.
Or like Camp Nightmare.
Oh, I haven't heard that one before. Finally, they get to the experimenting part. They let the alien dust infect a rat, which turns it into a sludge and then into a pod just like everyone else. But this time it's like a cute little rat pod. I kind of want that propped. I don't know why. I think it'd look cute up here. Don't you think? You know? They inject a serum into the pod, which deteriorates the pod and brings our little rat friend back to life. Naturally, you think that the next test would be to save Campy Boy over here, but no. Dr. Avi wants to try the serum on the spaceship to see what happens. And even though he's the one in charge, no one is on his side. They all agree that they didn't sign up to kill innocent aliens, and since they aren't willing to do it, he's going to do it alone. He starts the process, and it actually works, for a second at least. While no one is looking, Campy Boy wakes up out of his pod and saves the dying ship. And then he walks around naked, repeating, "This isn't me," until he changes. Avi and Ramona wake up and put on their hazmat suits to see what's going on, and sadly, 5 has been infected. 5 tries to kill Dr. Avi, but he somehow reverses it and kills 5 in the process, which is the first on-screen death in Goosebumps. Right? I guess he was infected, but he still looked human to me, so. As they try to escape the ship, they see 4 and 5 tried and failed to contain the ship. But while it's distracted with them two, it gives Ramona and Avi enough time to escape, but sadly, Avi's mask was cracked when he was fighting number 5. So Ramona has to leave her father behind to die, leaving it up to Ramona to contain the aliens and save the planet by herself. Cut back to present day, and Ramona finds the kids in her space with her diary, and she's understandably pissed off. She has also completely flipped her stance on the ship. Before, she wouldn't help her dad kill the ship. Now she thinks it's the biggest threat to humanity. She does reveal that she saved Trey with the serum in the suitcase, but they can't save Anthony because he's fully potted in the hatch, and it's just too dangerous to go down there. But Cece's a hardworking, independent woman, and she won't take no for an answer, and Ramona likes that. So she offers to help them. And as you could probably guess, we have a B plot. Anthony wakes up in his basement. He obviously has no recollection of what happened to him or how he got down there, and his laptop isn't working, so he doesn't know what time it is. So he heads upstairs to... never mind. He's trapped down there behind an indestructible, invisible wall, but in reality, he's still in the pod. So that must mean that Maddie and his friends have this little like bubble area that they're really comfortable in. I guess to keep them distracted, but they're still stuck in a room for 30 years. That would do some damage to your brain. And C plot time, I guess? Jen comes over to Anthony's house to check on Anthony, but he doesn't come to the door. I mean, he probably would if she actually hit the doorbell and not the Ring camera, but boomers and their lack of technology, ha ha ha. Even though she's not a boomer. Anyways, no one comes to the door and she's trying to see what is going on with the tape. But Trey's dad comes over and says that her daughter was hanging out with the kids and they all left, which makes her pretty worried. This was a pretty good episode. It was a lot of investigation, which I think they should have been doing the whole series, but I personally liked Ramona's backstory. It made her feel human rather than this mysterious entity that keeps showing up. It was fun to follow a new group of people for a bit in a super sci-fi-esque feeling segment. It was actually very shocking to me that they were going with an alien approach in this episode. My first watch through was obviously the day it came out earlier this year, and for the first few days, episode 8's title was hidden. So up to this episode, I was still thinking it was some kind of plant monster blood mutation kind of thing, which I was 100% down for, but aliens? I did not expect that. I do like the design of the ship, however. It feels very organic and otherworldly, and honestly, I like it a lot. Don't know how I feel about the spaceship penis, though. But it's nice finally learning something new in the series. For the past few episodes, the kids have just been figuring out what us as an audience already knew, and finding out that Ramona isn't entirely a bad guy is a pleasant surprise. And one last thing before we move on, the whole section in the hatch has a slight film grain to it. It's a really small detail that I like. It kind of feels like you're in like an old sci-fi movie, like 2001 A Space Odyssey or something. It just adds a little bit of detail to the episode that I really liked. Okay, now we can finally finish the series with... As you can see, the title of this episode kind of spoils the twist in the last episode. That's why they hid it from us the first few days the series was out. Invasion of the Body Squeezers is another Goosebumps Series 2000 book that's pretty popular within the fandom. It was the 4th and 5th book in the Series 2000 series, and they also reprinted it under the Goosebumps title to match the 2015 movie. But this is the last episode of the series, and there is still a ton of stuff that they have to wrap up, so the series is nice. So this is going to be like the first episode. It's probably going to be a longer segment, so let's hop into it. We start the episode with Ramona helping the group by giving them mysterious injections with some supplies in case things go south. She gives the group an extra serum for Anthony. She warns them that the serum only lasts an hour, and if they're going to be down there longer than that, then they'll have to stay out of the main room or they'll also be potted. Then she opens the hatch and lets the group inside. And just as everyone gets down there,
I'm sorry.
she traps them in there with the aliens. Maybe she is evil. Maybe I read the last episode wrong. Side note, we get a really good view of the spaceship in this episode, and I just think it's really cool, dude. I don't know, I like it a lot. Anyways, they quickly save Anthony from the pod, and almost instantly the alien ship penis wants him back. Or wants to kill him. Luckily, they're all okay, and they explore the lab for clues on how they can escape. But it's not going so well for them. Meanwhile, Anthony can't help but stare at his big brother frozen in time in one of those pods. He wants to save them all, but they only have enough serum for Anthony, and without food, water, or any way to call for help, they'll probably die down there pretty soon. And even smart man Anthony can't think up a way to help them escape.
There's no way. This is even worse than I realized a minute ago.
Eventually, they talk about the first time they accidentally opened the hatch, when Trey shoved the bolt cutters into the transformer in the first episode. Because the facility lost power, the hatch opened up. So maybe if they find a way to cut off the power, then they can escape. They somehow find electrical plans for the whole place down there, and miraculously, Trey can read electrical plans. What? And he tells them that there is a fuse box in the observation room that they could probably use to cut the power. He also mentions that there is a bigger hatch that they probably use to get the ship down into the facility. So the plan is simple. Cut power to the facility, then the hatch will open automatically, but they have a big scary ship that will turn them into pods the moment they step outside that door. Luckily for them, they know how to disable the ship because they read Ramona's diary. So Anthony uses one of the suits to go out and disable the ship to give the kids enough time to escape. But as you could probably guess, the plan doesn't go so well. The ship knows what he's trying to do, and it won't sit idly by again as someone tries to kill it. Luckily, he's a quick thinker and turns up the serum flow, which stops the ship right in its tracks. After he successfully sedates the ship, Trey shoves the screwdriver into the electric panel, which isn't the smart thing to do, but in his words,
worked last time.
Can't argue with that logic. Anthony has to stay back for a second as the kids escape because the ship severed the line connection to the serum. So he has to sit there and hold it in place for as long as possible, which wouldn't be an issue, except Ramona set up a backup generator, so the hatch is going to be closing very soon. And it's taking Anthony a second to get up the stairs. And just as the hatch is beginning to close, he shows up with Maddie and his friends. He just couldn't leave them behind. Luckily, they all make it out in time, and just in time too, because
I had to say,
Maddie?
Jen finds them. I know it seems like she just randomly appears here, but she actually used a tracking device on Alex's ankle because she's on house arrest to find her. Later that day, everyone, and I mean everyone, is at the Brewer house. And Maddie and Anthony have a very heartfelt conversation in the basement. Maddie figures out that Anthony is actually his little brother, which is understandably a big shock to him, but he talks about how proud he is of him for becoming a botanist and having kids and having a good life, which is very, very sweet. I just love brother moments in media, okay? I know I've said this like 4 times already. Like the end of Brother Bear always gets me. How does that movie have a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes? That's how you know that shit's rigged. Anthony tries to get Jen to come in and talk to Maddie, but she's very weirded out by the whole situation. She says that they need to tell someone about this because they have 4 kids who they thought were dead inside his house. But Anthony says that they have to keep it a secret because then the kids would get ET'd. Plus, he's not really worried about his brother being back. He's more worried about an alien spaceship underneath the fort. And he says that they need to find a way to stop the ship or at least release it. And the only person that can help them is Ramona. Back inside, the group try to distract the other kids by showing them Love Island, which they aren't really vibing with. Yeah, no shit, you're showing them Love Island. That's like brain rot for millennials. Show them some shit like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Breaking Bad. Dexter? Show them Dexter. I feel like they'd like Dexter. Maddie says that they're all really bored and they want to go do something, but Anthony told them to not leave the house under any circumstances. But Maddie is very persuasive. To Devin, at least, and they both talk everyone into letting them go out. Devin calls dibs on Hannah, of course. Anthony and Jen go to Ramona's lab, and they find her trying to bring her dad back to life. It's revealed that she was just using the groups as experiments so that she could bring her dad back to life. She was never on anyone's side. She was doing it all for selfish reasons. But in a huge twist, Avi says that he's been potted for way too long and it's too late to bring him back. And then he gets on his knees and says exactly what the camp counselor said in the previous episode.
This isn't me. No.
Then he gets covered in this disgusting mucus and turned into an alien, who then rips Ramona apart off screen. And it looks like Anthony is next. Luckily, Jen finds a freaking serum gun out of nowhere and kills the alien. Well, that's just convenient, isn't it? But since Avi turned into an alien, that must mean Maddie and his friends will too. And one by one, we watch as everyone, including Maddie, turns into a creepy alien monster. Each one of them saying,
this isn't me.
This isn't me.
This isn't me.
Sadly, Trey once again gets dusted by one of these aliens. Bro can't catch a break. And they aren't too sure what happened to CJ, but the aliens do surround the remaining 4 and successfully infect them all. But it's not too late to save them. They just got infected. I do have to say, seeing all of our main characters trapped in these pods is a little haunting. Kind of upsetting, too. Luckily, Jen and Anthony are still around and they're adults. And since Anthony has been inside one of those pods, he said that he felt a connection to the ship. He understands that it's just trying to survive. It's not evil, so they have to let it go. And once they do, it'll just solve all their issues and none of this will happen again. Luckily, he knows how to do that because Trey was talking about it earlier. And while trying to make their way to their kids, Anthony and Jen suddenly get attacked by multiple of the aliens. And Jen uses all of her ammo to get rid of all but one of them. They break into the bunker. Again, when were they gonna stop blocking this gate? Luckily, they're able to trap the last alien behind the gate, and they successfully turn on all the generators and open the big hatch, which sets the ship free, with a massive flash. And in this flash, Anthony gets a vision of his brother telling him that he's leaving for good this time, and it's time to let him go and focus on his kids and his work. And Maddie promises Anthony that he will be okay. And then everyone who was killed by the ship all walk down a tunnel into the light, which is obviously an allegory for them going into the afterlife. And when Anthony comes back, it's revealed that he saved the kids and possibly the rest of the world. Then we cut back to later in the summer, and it's time for Cece and Devin to head back to their moms. Cece and Alex decide to try and date, even though it's long distance, but long distance to New Yorkers is 10 blocks. I'll be here all night. But seriously, they won't be that far away. I don't know why they said it was long distance. Unlike his sister, Devin decided he wants to stay with his dad because he actually really likes Gravesend and Frankie. And CJ actually became manager of his parents' restaurant. Somehow. Then they all hug it out and everyone heads their separate ways. But it's not over yet. When Trey gets on his porch, he pukes up some more of the black liquid.
Oh, it's not good.
No, it's not. But that's where the show ends. As you guys know or could probably tell, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. But I'm kind of disappointed in this ending. Kind of sucks because the last season had a really bad ending as well. I think the aliens are awesome and I think they look incredible and are really cool. They're creepy and otherworldly and I definitely feel the alien inspiration in them. And I would love to see more of them because they seem like a genuine threat to everybody. And I feel like a whole season based around the aliens would have been better rather than the last 2 episodes of this season being based around them. Like we only get 15 minutes of screen time with them and in that 15 minutes you still have a lot of questions that are left unanswered. Overall, I like this season. It's miles better and more fun compared to the last season. It also seems a bit more put together than the previous season. It doesn't mean it's flawless though, but it is better. For one, the show seems incredibly rushed, especially the last episode. That episode has material for 2, maybe 3 episodes in it. I feel like if the show was 10 episodes long, then they could spend more time in the facility researching and gathering evidence about these weird aliens. And then we could have a whole episode of Maddie and his friends back and the troubles that would bring with them being turned into the aliens. And then Anthony having to save his kids from them. If they just had more time to flesh out the alien side of the story, it probably would have been great. Kind of like the opposite of what happened the last season. The last season could have ended in 8 episodes, but this one needed 10 episodes. Another complaint I have is we start the series off believing it's going to be an evil, sentient plant story, which would have been awesome if they actually kept that the whole time. Even if they like merged it with the Monster Blood storyline, I think it would have been really cool to see. If they added Monster Blood into it, it would have explained why the plant sample Anthony sent to the lab came back carnivorous and animal-like. Sure, it sounds a little far-fetched, but it's also very Goosebumpsy and weird to have that. And I also know the alien stuff was set up from the beginning, but I feel like the alien storyline is a bit lazy. You can make some genuinely scary stuff with evil plants, and you have enough cast members have them slowly start disappearing one by one, and have an evil plant siphoning their life as fertilizer so it can grow bigger and stronger and take over the city. It keeps this big mystery element that they obviously wanted this season to have, and keeps a fun plant story that we all love. It just seems like they thought halfway through, aliens are cool, let's do that instead. And then they reworked some little details in the season to match the alien storyline. I mean, we go from weird mysterious plants to aliens very fast, with little to no explanation. I know that the plant seed pod in his arm at the beginning of the season was an alien, but how? Because later in the season, the aliens needed humans to be born, so why is there a random seed part in the life cycle? It's like we're missing a big part of the alien life cycle here. Also, why did it randomly turn Trey into this monster, but everyone else gets to look normal and just walk all the way to the fort? And how did it possess a car? Why did it suddenly turn into a massive blob for an episode? I just have a lot of questions about the mysterious qualities this alien species has. And now that I think about it, is the aliens the black goo or the 4-legged creatures? It has to be the black goo because that's what comes off of the ship and everything else, right? Right. Story aside, the acting in this season isn't that bad, honestly. Of course, there are moments where it feels a little flat. One of the best examples of this is Jen screaming. She's just such dead-eyed, man. Like, give me some emotion, please. And I see a lot of complaints online about the dialogue in this season being cringe and bad because, you know, Goosebumps has always had top-tier dialogue.
Leave. Oh man, me neither.
Do you think he's a ghost?
He said Santa Luisa were the ghost.
But maybe he's lying.
Look, we gotta go to the graveyard.
I don't want to.
Larry, you're making them too big.
I happen to like big meatballs.
That's because it ain't chicken. It's gator.
How about some roast beef?
I don't want food, I want answers.
I don't see an issue with the dialogue in this season. Most of it is just Devin being awkward on purpose as a joke anyways, so lighten up. I will say the amount of jokes that they shove into the series does get to be a bit much sometimes. It sometimes feels like nothing is too serious because nobody takes it seriously. I'd be okay if it was just one of the friends that did it because, let's be honest, there's always that one friend that never takes anything seriously. But it's literally every single boy. All 3 guys are comic relief. They have their moments where they seem to be smart for a second, but for the most part, they're all pretty dumb. I think Trey has the most, like, range. He'll go from, like, I know electrical work to I'm the worst person ever. But a plus for this season is the incredible effects. Almost every episode has something worth seeing in some way. And there are some genuinely shocking things at times, especially in the episode The Boy Who Cried Monster. I mean, the old lady jump scare was kind of shocking. Anthony's eye was definitely shocking. And the puking black sludge was just gross. I mean, that episode just rocks. It's always fun to watch. And even in the second episode, Trey as the plant monster, it looks incredible and it's horrifying. I didn't expect anything to look that good in this show. I will say the monster blood in that episode does kind of look shoddy here and there. Honestly, I would have renamed that episode The Blob That Ate Everyone, but it can't change it now. Oh, and the incredible alien spaceship, I actually really like that a lot. I was really shocked at how hard they worked on the effects for the season, especially after the first season had little to no effects besides go eat worms maybe. And sometimes the effects in that episode didn't look that great either. So that's just like one of the massive step ups that this season had from the last. I also think they did a better job with the characters in this season. Last season, I only really liked Lucas, and it really hurt the season a lot. But everyone in this season is likable, or at least charismatic enough to get you to not hate them. Even Trey comes around and turns out to be a pretty decent guy. And they actually feel like young adults, not like adults trying to act like teenagers, you know? I mean, they're a little dumb and annoying, but they're not so dumb or annoying that you want to just choke the hell out of them every once in a while. And they actually use their brain to make progress in solving a mystery. I mean, it takes them a minute, but at least they did it, you know? In conclusion, I really like this season. Of course, like I said last year, I'd much rather have an episodic anthology show about Goosebumps that's darker and looks better than the 90s one. I think it will do very well if they just tried one season with that format. But this season was definitely a step up from last season, and it looked better. It was more colorful. It had better visuals, it had a better atmosphere, better characters, better story, better horror. And I know a lot of people complain that it's a Stranger Things clone, and I understand why they feel that way, but personally, any kind of teen horror show feels that way to me. But I really think they started to figure out what they wanted this show to be and feel like. But sadly, we'll never see what happens because this is the last season of the show. The third season got canceled. And I know I'm in the minority here, but I really like this little Goosebumps show that we got. No, it doesn't have the same cheesy charm as the 90s show, and no, I don't think it's better than the 90s show. But for what they gave us, I don't think they did a bad job. But that's all I have for you today. Before I end the video, I want you guys to know that I found and bought the same exact hoodie that Maddie wears in the show for a bit in the video, but it did not arrive to my house on time. Thanks, Postal Service. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get bonus content plus videos a day early, maybe some pictures of my cats, a Discord server, and your name right here on screen. And YouTube members are lumped in with them as well. Like the video if you like the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace.